Parents that use nanny cams. What is the most bizarre thing you've caught on it? Just me. I went into his room to get him and said, "Daddy's here, don't cry." I went back with him to my room and heard the monitors say, "Here, don't cry." Since my voice sounds so alien to me, I freaked out and watched in horror as a tall man grabbed my baby and walked out. It really probably took 1 second to realize I was holding him and it was me in the video. But I went through 10 years of gray hair in that second. We now have a Discord. Check out the server in the link in the description. Story 2. Not a parent, but once caught the babysitter taking the baby's blanket, putting it around her neck like a small cape, and flying around the room with it on. Keep in mind the baby could only see out of the crib and was not present for the show. Needless to say, we found out she was often high during babysitting. Story 3. I can tell you in like 1995 I was babysitting for this really wealthy family, and I couldn't figure out how to turn the TV on. The little girl was fast asleep and I was so bored. I checked out her enormous playroom and ended up playing with a doctor kit with their little Shih Tzu dog. They literally walked into the house on me with a doctor coat on, weird doctor headband that looked like a headlamp, and taking the dog's heartbeat with a stethoscope. I was like 15 and so bored. They were speechless. Story 4. My buddy has a camera that sits on his doorstep. It has a motion sensor, and every time it detects someone or something on the porch, it snaps a photo and sends it to his phone. It's a Sunday morning, and for once his 2-year-old isn't shouting into his bedroom to get him out of his crib. Ah yes, a rare morning to lay in bed. His phone goes off. A photo of a little red-headed boy reaching out of the front door to grab a package appears, and that's how he discovered that his son could get out of the crib. Story 5. I worked as a preschool teacher in the late 90s, and our school decided to put secure webcams up in the classroom so parents could see their kids during the day. The parents had usernames and passwords, etc. It wasn't viewable to anyone whose child wasn't currently enrolled. As a parent of a small child at the time, I thought it was kinda neat, even if it meant people might see me picking a wedgie every now and then. Well, there was just one problem. Within a month of the webcams being online, 2 parents had come to us about their co-parents' browsing habits. One was choking the chicken to me and the other teacher. The other was pleasuring themselves to the children. Then a third report of a parent finding still captures of someone else's child in a folder on her husband's computer. That was the end of the webcams. DCF, back then I think it was called HRS, was brought in to investigate the families involved. We even changed our pick-up and drop-off policies. Parents were no longer allowed to enter the classrooms beyond the little ante-rooms where the children's cubbies were. I only taught preschool for a few years, and this was towards the end of that time. I read later that the issue was a common one in preschools and daycares that used webcams. Edited because I'm having trouble keeping up with the replies. As for the quality of the video parents were able to view, I have no idea. My child wasn't enrolled. I did not have access to view any of it. My director/administrator was made aware of the cases I mentioned, and I and the rest of the staff were made aware subsequently. There were 2 classrooms. 2 of the issues stemmed from mine, 1 from the other. Yes, I am a woman. Yes, I'm hot, but I'm probably your mom's age. Okay, I get it. Right away, the idea of being able to watch your small child in a classroom setting is good. But to me, this just shows that the people made in charge of making these decisions weren't on the internet long enough. Because people do some weird things with any content they can access through their computer. And it really can attract the most weirdo people out there. And these were just parents who were caught who had their children enrolled. I don't think it's impossible for someone with bad intentions to break into one of these accounts. Security breaches like that happen all the time. And in this context, that would be pretty bad. Story 6. Okay, not a parent and not a nanny cam, but my nephew and his baby monitor. Sis called me cry laughing to tell me that niece went into the nursery and proceeded to lay out a few house rules on her 4-week-old little brother. Sis says it was things about sharing and cleaning up and being nice and protective and minding his manners. That was funny enough, but the niece finished with this gem. Everybody pulls their weight in this family. You're lucky you're only 9 pounds. That little bossy munchkin. She's super protective of him still. I have multiple pictures of them holding hands while they nap. Story 7. I know of a family who had a full-time plus nanny cleaner cook, known as a helper in Hong Kong, and often expected to work 20 hours a day plus sleeping in the same room as the kids, with only Sundays off. They got a nanny cam and fired this woman, because after her spending her entire day getting the kids ready for kindergarten, cooking a hot breakfast, picking up after the family, doing 3 to 4 hours of cleaning, prepping for dinner, setting out activities for after she went out to get the kids. In other words, after a very full day's work for minimal pay, she had the audacity to sit down on the family's couch, in the communal room of the house that she was contractually obligated to live in, just for 15 minutes to have a rest before leaving to get the kids. Work for 10 hours straight and sit on the couch for 15 minutes of downtime before getting the kids, making dinner, cleaning the house, welcoming the parents home, serving dinner, cleaning up after dinner. Fired. I don't know if anything else screams entitlement more than this. That's so awful. This poor nanny is just trying so hard to get enough money to live, probably. And this family, who certainly has enough, if I had to guess, is just going to fire her for taking a break. Incredible. I'm sure that they have worked that hard every day of their lives, too. I'm sure. Story 8. Not on a cam, but on a baby phone. My aunt liked to tell a story from a time when her children were small. One time she was laying in bed, everything fine, and then suddenly she heard a deep voice saying, "It's me, the monster. I came to get you." Of course, she went into panic mode instantly, ran to her child, and nothing there. So she went back and heard the voice again, realizing that it's one of her neighbors playing with his kid. Turns out those devices used the power grid, and since both used the same model, apparently made her hear what he was saying into the neighbor's baby phone. Story 9. Not a parent, but I'm almost certain my dad caught this. When I was in college, my dad asked if I would dog/house sit for he and my mom. I said sure, as long as they didn't mind if my girlfriend came. They didn't. I'm pretty sure they like her more than me. We're now married. The week comes, and like any college couple ever, we bang everywhere. Partway through the week, we're sitting in the living room and everything going well. The dog's okay. Comes out of the clock. I dang near jumped out of my skin. Turns out my dad had installed a mic/camera system throughout the house. I don't know if they caught us. The cameras deleted everything from 24 hours prior, but there's a distinct possibility. Needless to say, we kept our antics to my room from then on out. Story 10. Buddy of mine had a kid at the beginning of last year. Discovered that both his cat and his beagle would climb into the crib with the baby occasionally during naps. Cute, right? Both animals made it a habit to climb in, kick/push the baby to the very side of the crib and curl up in the middle, completely alone. You'd catch them glaring at the kid if he started to roll back over and invade their space. You always see or hear about so many cute stories of animals cuddling up with kids. These ones? No. Hate kids. These animals realize the kid is a threat to their attention, and they want all they can get, and will do anything to stop it. Story 11. I got fired because of a nanny cam. I was working for a very rich, by Australian standards, family. The dad was a surgeon and he'd invented some kind of special surgical screw. Anyway, I was 25, looking after their 5 children. All boys. Aged 17, 16, 11, 9, and then baby surprise who was 3 years old. The 2 older kids obviously don't ever need me, and the 11 and 9-year-olds were really sweet and cute and didn't need that much. The toddler, though, just the worst kid I had ever cared for. Really bratty and awful, but stopped short of torturing small animals. One day we're stuck inside playing Star Wars Lego and he's bossing me around and talking about the catwalkers we're building. I'm like, little dude, it's AT-AT for real. He cracked it, flipped over the fancy Lego table, told me he hated me, and ran downstairs. Being the consummate professional I am, I calmly flipped him off for 2 whole minutes before I went down and helped him cheer up. Next day, I was fired. Story 12. Not a nanny cam, but one of those audio ones so you can hear if they're crying or whatever else might be going on. I was up very early one morning, 5 a.m., getting a little work done in my house office. Had the thing with me so I could hear my baby daughter, about 2 months old at this point. Suddenly, I hear a woman talking very, very softly. My whole body went cold and I stopped everything to make sure it wasn't just my imagination. Yes, I still hear it. At the same instant that I prepare to dash into her room, I hear a little more, and realize I'm hearing a frickin' autoplay video or audio ad on my tab in a web browser that was coming through my computer's speaker, which was turned down really low. I thought my heart would never slow back down. Story 13. Super late, but whatever. When I'm home from college, I babysit for these pretty wealthy people. At the time, the boys I would babysit were about 2 years old and 9 months old. It was summer and I had laid the younger one down for a nap. Then took the monitor out with me to the backyard so the 2-year-old could play. I hear sound going off and see arms reaching into the crib to the sleeping baby. I grabbed the 2-year-old, a knife, and slowly walked upstairs. Their grandmother had come to see if I needed any help, but didn't have my number, so she didn't text me she was there. We laughed about it, but never have I ever been so ready to shank someone. Story 14. I have my house surrounded by CCTV cameras. One day, just all of a sudden, in the city of New York, in Flushing, an entire herd of goats just randomly walked into the area, right into our tiny front yard. They stood there and nobody came to get them. It was completely bizarre. I looked up any information I could find about parades or anything that would have had, goats. None of the neighbors saw anything. This is a regular street in Flushing with only houses around me. My mailbox was eaten off the fence post. They were around for 20 minutes. I'll never know why they were there. Story 15. I was babysitting for my sister a few months ago and was checking on my 2-year-old nephew through the nanny cam asleep in his crib. I got up to put dinner in the oven, and when I came back, I checked the cam again. And there was a huge black mass in the crib with him. My sister doesn't have any pets, so I was like, WTF? A black dog or cat or something had gotten in and is attacking my nephew. I ran upstairs like crap off a shovel and saw, to my horror, my nephew has pulled a black bin liner into the cot with him and has crawled inside. I got him straight out of it and he said he was fine. I took the bin liner back downstairs and just sat on the floor crying. This was my first time babysitting for my sister. I had to go at her when she got home. Who keeps a bin liner where their baby could get it? And she said there was one in his cupboard full of nappies, diapers, well out of reach. So we checked and the nappies were in there, but the bag had been taken out somehow. Never underestimate a child's ability to unalive themselves. It seems like for the first little bit of their time on this world, kids are hell-bent on ending themselves in any way they can. And it's just the parental minigame to stop them from doing it whenever it happens. Story 16. Not on a nanny cam, but maybe close enough? My son was awake in his crib babbling to himself and having a good time. My wife and I were watching him through the baby monitor, kind of laughing at him being silly. He could pull himself up and, while holding the crib rail, slowly walk around the inside edges of the crib. As we're watching him, he comes around and looks directly into the camera, so looking directly at us in the baby monitor. As we're watching him, he reaches out to try and grab the camera. We see him leaning over the crib rail, stretching his hand out for the camera, which is just out of reach. Suddenly, he flips right over the crib rail while we're watching live and lands with a thump on the carpet. Cue his crying and our running in to check on him. He was scared, but fine otherwise. Not that great of a story, I guess. Still, my wife and I were both so surprised, and the odds of us having both been watching the live feed exactly at that moment were pretty low. In my mind's eye, I can still see that sudden look of surprise on his face as he flipped. He never tried to climb out of his crib on his own like his sister did, and I wonder if that was the reason why. Story 17. Not me, but a coworker, and it was not actually nanny cams per se. She has 3 cats, and apparently while she was at work, they were damaging things in the house. She set up the cameras to find out which cat was the culprit and how it could be stopped. Well, before she was able to figure that out, she actually watched as 3 men broke into her house. Now, she couldn't call 911 because she lives in a different state than she worked in, so the 911 centers had no way to hand calls off to each other. She got lucky. Another coworker happened to live at the opposite end of the same county as she did. He was closer to my age and lived there before there was 911. Just like me, growing up, his parents made him memorize his county's 7-digit fire police dispatch number. And luckily, his county had left that number active so that employees and other departments had a way to call directly into the dispatch center. He rattled off that number and she dialed it. Voila! It got into her county's dispatch center. She was able to talk to the police and tell them not just what the guys looked like, but which room they were in and where they were crouched down. They were arrested without incident, although all 3 of them had guns on them. All property was recovered not only from her house, but from 2 other houses on the same street, and they got long prison sentences. And it all started with one really bratty cat. From everything I know about being a criminal, which admittedly is little, but from what I know, don't break multiple laws at the same time. Or I guess in this case, don't break the same law in sequence multiple times, because that just seems stupid. Why would you not only double but triple your chances of getting caught? Surely the gains couldn't have been that great. You've robbed 2 houses already. Just take your winnings and go home. But no, they had to go for the 3rd one. All right, here you go. Consequences for your actions. Enjoy. Story 18. My brother had a camera that was left in the basement just for safety reasons. He had some workers over to fix a tile shower since it didn't drain properly. I guess the guys were pretty annoyed at having to fix it, but it's their own fault for not doing it right the first time. Fast forward a couple weeks and my brother's sister-in-law is turning 21. They're in his basement bar when they start pouring shots for her. As they were pouring, they could smell something wasn't right. Her boyfriend immediately thought it smelled like nail polish remover. They decided to check the camera and sure enough, the workers drank some alcohol and replaced it with a full bottle of nail polish remover. They found the empty bottle under the bathroom sink, and my brother's wife knew that it was her unopened bottle that she had bought previously. Kinda messed up. I'm sorry, kind of messed up? That's all you have to say, OP? I am no expert in nail polish remover, but that sounds unsafe for consumption, if I had to guess. This sounds incredibly dangerous and there should have been consequences, not just being fired. I'm talking real consequences. That could have really hurt someone, I think. I keep having to say I think, which is really, diminishing my argument. But I'm sure someone in the comments will let me know if I'm right or not. But I just have a feeling I am. Story 19. Pretty standard as a parent to instinctually hear a noise in the deepest sleep in a really badass dream and immediately wake up and turn the monitor on to investigate. Although that lightens up with their progression. Anyway, my kid was of the age that she was standing and talking and liked to aimlessly travel around her 3x5 crib. On this particular night, I awoke out of a sleep because of some odd noises like ruffling, and then sort of labored breathing and then other noises. On this particular night, I awoke out of a sleep because of some odd noises like ruffling, and then sort of labored breathing and then other noises I had never heard before. So as a parent, and if you don't have kids, you won't understand until you do, my heart drops. In that 1 second, someone has broken in, made it past our alarm, past our sleeping dog, and is now trying to take my sweet, precious little girl. So, in 2 seconds flat, I sit straight up like they do in the movies, and I look over at the dark screen and grab it. Turn it on, and holy crap, I was not prepared for what I saw. I sit straight up like they do in the movies, and I look over to a dark screen and grab it. I turn it on, and holy crap, I was not prepared for what I saw. My kid's frickin' face was the entire monitor screen, head turned sideways. All I saw was her cute little face and little beady night vision eyes. It's an image that's hard to explain, but it scared me more than the initial thoughts that ran through my head. My heart skipped a beat for sure. That's when we found out she now knew what the camera was and could communicate with us using it. She was whispering into the camera while looking into the camera eye. She was whispering, "I love you, Mommy and Daddy, can I come near your bed?" It was a really scary few seconds. Then that weird feeling you get when you realize your child's curiosity is so cute and they're learning. Story 20. I'm a nanny, and these posts are the reason why I insist of having a contract that details how nanny cam footage can be stored and shared. I've heard horror stories of nannies finding out that the parents were showing funny video clips of them to other people for fun, beyond the normal worry of a nanny cam being in a spot that would catch me in a state of undress. Have you ever had a baby pee all over you while being changed? Well, I start peeling layers off immediately, and would be freaked to find out later a nanny cam caught me in a bra or something while I got cleaned up. Story 21. I babysit my cousin's 2 kids pretty much every other Friday night, so he and his wife can have some time alone and out of the house. Their kids are 2 and 6 months. So they have video monitors in each of their rooms, and I pretty much watch the monitors and read or watch TV. Roughly a month ago, I heard talking coming out of one of the monitors. It was a man's voice, and he kept saying over and over again, "It's okay, go back to sleep, I'm here." And I could see a figure standing over the crib in the 6-month-old's room. I freaked out thinking someone had broken in. They had a break-in around Christmas time and the guy was never caught. I called the police and my cousin and crept upstairs with a knife to protect myself and the babies. No one was upstairs and both kids were sound asleep. Needless to say, I was thoroughly freaked out until the police and my cousin came out. It didn't help that they lived in an older home and everything creaked. Fast forward to last week, the exact same thing happened to my cousin during the day while the kids are napping. But since it was daytime, the video monitor gave off a better picture of the room. Apparently, the one monitor in the 6-month-old's room switches over to the neighbor's monitor every once in a while. The voice I heard was that of his next-door neighbor soothing their crying baby, who is around the same age. Story 22. My cousin has a video baby monitor that connects over Wi-Fi. Her husband travels a lot and likes to check on the baby at weird hours without having to wake up his wife, so he can just log on. It also has a microphone feature so he can talk to his daughter. She is 2 now, but was about 18 months when this happened. She was unconsolable one night, and my cousin kept having to go soothe her back to sleep. On the 3rd or 4th time entering her room, she heard a man's voice, not her husband's, talking to her crying baby. She changed the password and sent out a warning to the other parents to change their passwords. Scary stuff. Just a tip, for anything that happens like this with someone supposedly breaking into an account or whatever, changing your password probably won't do anything. If I had to guess, they got in through direct means, like straight into the connection. But maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, somehow someone may have hacked your password, but that's incredibly unlikely, especially for something like this.